Okay, I'm going to call the June 14th, 2023 meeting of the Manitou Springs Planning Commission to order. First time of business, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Graybill. Commissioner
Present.
Day. Commissioner Day.
Present.
Commissioner Wilson.
Present.
Commissioner Casey.
Present.
And I'm Commissioner Delwich. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the the April meeting. And I have one correction on this one. And if you go to, let's see, it's page 8 of the PDF. There's a vote. It says motion failed 0-7. Actually, the motion passed 7-0. So, yeah. Any other corrections or additions? Have a motion to approve?
I can make that motion to approve minutes from April 12th. I'll second that.
All in favor, those who were at the meeting? Megan, you weren't there, so you can't vote.
Oh.
Okay, so that passes 4-0. Next is the approval of the minutes for the May meeting. Let's see.
I'll move to approve the May 10th meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? That's 3-0, 2 abstentions. So we move on to actually, the next item will be non-agenda items. If anybody would like to make a comment on something that's not in the agenda, this would be the time to do it. And you can have public comment up to 3 minutes and just state your name and full address for the record. And it's not an interactive question and answer type thing. We'll just take the input and if there's something for the future, we'll consider it. So at this point, if anybody would like to make a non-agenda item comment, step to the table. And seeing no takers, we'll move on. We'll go to the business part of our meeting. And I'll just describe the process before we start. I'll call an item for consideration and staff will describe what the request is and what their findings are and recommendations. And following that, we'll allow the applicant to come up and state their case. Following that, we'll open the hearing to the public and it's an opportunity to speak, and we'll ask people to limit their comments to 3 minutes. And following that, we'll deliberate and vote to approve, deny, possibly modify the thing, possibly table it. And we'll be guided by what's in our land use and development code. We don't legislate, we just are interpreting what's in the code. So with that, are there any conflicts or ex parte contacts to disclose? Okay, so we'll move it on to first item of unfinished business is short-term rental 2304, short-term rental permit at 49 Delaware Road by Peter Salat, owner.
Thank you, Jared Delwich. This is Chelsea Royston for the record. As of 4 o'clock today, the applicant withdrew the application due to feedback from the neighbors during the previous hearing.
All right, thank you. So we will move on. Next item is major temporary use permit 2302, 515 Ruxton Avenue. Operation outside of hours allowed in the conditional use permit on 4 dates in 2023.
Thank you, Chair Delich. Let me just get the PowerPoint pulled up here. Okay, so as mentioned by Chair Delich, we're looking at a major temporary use 2302. Specifically, this is for 515 Ruxton Avenue, or otherwise known as the Cog Railway property. Just a little bit of background. The Pikes Peak Cog Railway operates through a major conditional use that was approved in 2019. It had received other conditional use approvals, but this is the most recent one. As part of that approval, there are conditions that include hours of operation only between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. This temporary use seeks to operate outside of those particular hours, specifically for 4 dates in 2023. This specific request would be for July 21st, which is a Friday. That also is National Parks and Recreation Day. For Thursday, August 1st, which is National Mountain Climbing Day. Monday, September 11th for a 9/11 commemoration. And Monday, October 9th for Indigenous Peoples Day. This particular request would allow for the Cog Railway to operate earlier in the morning to bring people up during sunrise. The Pikes Peak Summit House is having these sunrise opening events. And so they are seeking to allow a train to take folks up there to participate in that sunrise event on those 4 dates only. They're proposing these particular times for each date. So on the 21st, customers would begin to arrive at 4 a.m. with a train departure at 4:30. Thursday, August 1st, we're looking at arrival at 4:30 with departure at 5. On September 11th, customers would begin arriving at 5 a.m. with departure at 5:30. And October 9th, folks would start arriving at 5:15 and departing at 5:45 a.m. This particular site does contain 320 parking spaces, and that's for staff and guests. According to the applicant's narrative, they're only proposing to use 1 train for these events, which holds 263 passengers. So there is sufficient parking on site for these sunrise openings. The review criteria for major temporary uses are pretty straightforward. It reads, the use will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, and general welfare, and will be compatible with the proposed purpose and intent of the LUDC and the zone district. And then the second review criteria is if it's located out of the downtown zone district, that there's adequate off-street parking. Staff recommends approval of the subject request. It is our opinion that the request would not result in a detrimental impact to the public's health, welfare, and safety. We are proposing the following conditions. These are conditions that are mentioned by the applicant in their narrative. One being that they shall notify the customers to be respectful of the residential area, that there will be no amplified sound beyond what is normal for the train operation, and that the major temporary use is only applicable for the 4 dates that I've listed in the presentation. And with that, the applicant is present today, so if they may want to add something to what I've presented, but up on the screen are some proposed motion language options if the commission wanted to use those.
Are there any questions for staff? Okay, could the applicant come up and state your name and address for the record?
Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Ted Johnston. I am the general manager for the Pikes Peak Cog Railway. My address is 1903 West Kucharz Street, Colorado Springs, Colorado, 80904. So as Hannah mentioned, the Pikes Peak Summit House is going to be conducting 4 sunrise openings this year. We've been invited to participate alongside the highway. And so when this opportunity was brought to me, I thought this could be a great opportunity for us to partner with the community in some way. And we would do that through taking a portion of the ticket sale proceeds from this train and finding causes here in town that we could give that money to. One that came to mind immediately was the library renovation, and then on 9/11, the volunteer fire department. And for the others, we're still trying to figure out what those causes might be. But part of what I want to do moving forward is find a way for the COG to partner with the community in more ways. And so I felt this would be a good first step, and reached out to Hannah and Denise and walked through this. And so I would greatly appreciate the opportunity to do this.
Thanks. Any questions for the applicant? Mike?
Hi, Ted. Can we add that there's no, that the train doesn't blow its horn during these trips?
Yes, and it's already in our operating rules that we don't blow horns before 7 a.m.
Okay. Oh, good to know. And if you need any help spending that money, I got some ideas.
All right.
Okay, thank you. And if we need have any more questions, we'll bring you back.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, now's the time. If anybody in the audience would like to comment on this, step to the table and state your name and address for the record.
Steve Bremner, 626 Ruxton Avenue. I'm not opposed to this. I think it's fine. It's a good cause. My only reason coming up here right now is you mentioned blowing the horn. And I live right here, the horn all the time. I'm at the past Hydro Street way up there, and the trains, when they come down, they blow their horn. I'm perfectly fine with them blowing their horn when they're arriving, because that's good for safety, to make sure that the people down there are aware that the train's coming. But what I've found is there's a lot of excess horn blowing throughout the day, just like beep, 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 and it's like, it's pretty annoying when you live right next to it. So I'd just like to ask Ted if he could, I understand the need for horn blowing for communication, but a lot of this horn blowing seems to be just like tooting their horn. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Oh, you have to push a little, yeah.
How's that? There we go. Hi. Yeah, my name's Ray Ferguson, 634 Ruxton. Steve's neighbor. I'm the last one on Ruxton. I'm not opposed to this. I think it's a, a worthy cause. The business that they have about having no horns, I think that'll be good. It's early enough in the morning if they're gonna talk to their guests about trying to be quiet. I think it'll be okay. There's a kind of a little bit of history with this, not with this. This is for a sunrise viewing on the peak. And a friend of mine who's deceased long ago, her name was Margaret Fees. She used to own the Loop here, and back in probably the 40s, they had bus trips, sunrise bus trips to the peak. And she used to put together box lunches for those trips that went up to the peak. So anyway, that's just a little side thing, but it's something that's, got a little bit of precedent, and it's historical for the mountain. The one thing I was going to say, and it was up on the slide, August 1st, they have like National Hiking Day. August 1st is Colorado Day. And I don't know, that's not your deal, but I thought that maybe could have a little, equal byline with Hiking Day, Colorado Day. My last deal would be, this was going to be 4 days. In the future, it could be, they might add a couple of days. I guess I'd tell you right now, if it were to turn into something that, they're wanting to do it all the time, I would not be in favor of that. But under these conditions, I think it's a worthy deal. Thanks.
Thank you. If there's no one else wants to speak, then I'll close the public comment portion of this hearing. And we can deliberate. Anybody would like to entertain a motion? That would be the time.
I'll make a motion that we approve the major temporary use permit for 515 Ruxton Avenue based upon the findings of the request meets the review criteria for granting a major temporary use permit as set forth in City Code section 18.06.4.8H with staff's conditions as outlined.
I'll second. More discussion.
I just want to make a comment. I thought it was interesting that there was no, other than these guys, no feedback from the posting, which is, I think that's worth noting and encouraging
Okay.
from the public, sorry.
No other comments, and let's vote. All in favor, just raise your hand. Okay, no opposed. That passes unanimously. Next item is major temporary use permit at 2303 101 Higginbotham Road. Temporary seasonal parking for Rainbow Falls.
Thank you. Just give me 1 second to pull up our PowerPoint. Okay, thank you. So major temporary use permit 2303 is for a temporary parking lot at 101 Higginbotham Road. The request is within a commercial zone district, and the applicant has used these lots as an offsite parking lot for tourism-based companies since approximately 2018. The City Planning Department at that time issued a 3-year approval plus a 1-year administrative extension, which expired April 30th, 2022. The previous approval noted, the 1-year administrative extension of the temporary use condition, or of the previously approved temporary use conditioned that there would be no major grading or vegetation removal associated with the parking use. Surface smoothing and the use of parking lots or other temporary space markings are allowed. Number 2, should they wish to extend the parking use beyond April 30th, 2022, a major conditional use permit or other land use application as appropriate would be necessary to continue the parking use. Number 3, any permanent structures or major grading and improvement of the property would require a major conditional use permit and a grading permit. Number 4, no lighting of the parking lot is allowed under the temporary use. And number 5, the applicant was allowed to apply for an off-premise sign for the property because the actual business locations were not at the 101 Higginbotham site. For clarification, here is the location. The 2 lots highlighted in green are the 2 proposed spaces for parking or lots for parking. This is immediately to the northwest of the self-storage. Here you can see the proposed site plan, which indicates where parking spaces would be marked with chalk. The applicant has indicated that they would like to grade the site and remove vegetation for this application. And they propose the hours, oh, excuse me. I'm on the wrong staff report. They propose that a parking attendant would be located on the site during peak hours to manage circulation, and as I said, the parking spaces would be marked with chalk lines. The application had received no public comment during the public comment period. And as Hannah stated, the findings and review criteria are fairly minimal for temporary use permits. So staff does find that the proposed use as a parking lot will generally not be detrimental to the public health and general welfare. The proposed grading of the lot could potentially present some risk to public safety. More information on the grading is needed for staff to determine what level of grading permit should be required. The proposed use is compatible with the purpose and intent of the LUDC, and the commercial zone district is an appropriate location for this use as it supports tourism related businesses such as parking for Rainbow Falls and other regional attractions. The second finding and review criteria is if located outside of the downtown zone district, adequate off-street parking meets the standards. And this isn't really applicable since this is a parking lot. So staff does recommend a few conditions with this application. Number one, no grading shall be completed on site prior to the approval of grading permit. Number two, the major temporary use permit will expire 1 year from the date of approval. And number three, no overnight parking shall be permitted. And this concludes staff's report.
Any questions? Thank you. Would the applicant like to state your name and address for the record?
Hello, Greg Wellens, owner of Adventures Out West, 3 Sequoia Road, Colorado Springs, Colorado 80906. Greg Wellens. And address this. Okay. The permit that we had in the past was issued. So, well, it's just Rainbow Falls is trying to open and they've got a big problem on their hands trying to get open. So we're trying to help them come up with a way to generate revenue in a partnership where we would do a shuttle and parking to get guests down to Rainbow Falls. Pikes Peak Highway continues to need more shuttling options as well. And they've reached out to us for parking options. That's secondary to this, but that's why I'm calling it this seasonal adventure lot, that we might be using it for more, for more than just the Rainbow Falls parking lot as time permits. My goal is to establish a need, figure out that something can happen up there, that we could get a functional parking lot. The parking lot plan I had drawn up a couple of years ago that showed a bit of a visitor center, a welcoming center, more of a building there that we would use for the business, but I wouldn't anticipate all that. I submitted that just to show that 85 parking places could fit on there. 85 cars could fit on that lot without issue is drawn to legal stuff. Grading sounds too dramatic. Weed whacking. There's no grading that needs to be done to use it as a temporary use, so we wouldn't be doing any grading. Just weed whacking. There's no trees that are standing up or anything like that in the way that would prevent parking on there. The 1 year time frame. When I put in my proposal, I said let's come up with the criteria as to when we do need to go to a more of a major permit. Is that 10 cars a day? Is that 100 cars a day? If it's only 10 cars a day and we're not showing any demand for Rainbow Falls, then we wouldn't even be moving forward with a major development plan. But let's hope that demand is robust. They had 500 or 600 visitors some days when they were open, and people were parked up and down Serpentine and wherever they could fit in, and it was a bit of a mess. So they want to have something that shows up and works and looks good for them. We do not have a contract with them. It's all negotiation. This is just another portion of it that we would need to be able to offer and be able to offer them as we get going forward. Yeah, previous use was for Rainbow Falls. We never used it. We never got that far. We couldn't get a contract with them to offer shuttling. So that was the purpose of it, but we never used it for any parking or anything like that. So.
Any questions for the applicant? Mike?
I'm a little confused. So it's has not been used prior. Okay. But then there's going to be an attendant up there.
If it was busy enough that we had 40 cars a day and we had a shuttle running, we would have to have an attendant there, I believe, to help operate that.
Okay.
Whenever they were, depending on what the contract would say, I wouldn't anticipate an attendant being there 9 months a year. We'd be talking probably the 3 months of summer.
Oh, so that's only if something gets negotiated with Rainbow Falls.
Correct.
I see. Is there trash bins up there?
Oh, we don't have any trash bins or anything, no. We certainly can, but whatever we need, that would be an appropriate item for a parking lot.
Sure. Okay. Thanks.
Perhaps even a porta potty, we can develop that together. I've been here and given proposals before. I'd like feedback and let's develop something that works together.
Okay, if there's no other comments. Thank you. Bring you back if we have more questions. Now we're open for public comment. If anybody would like to comment on this item, now's the time. Great. I don't see any takers, so I'll close the public comment portion of this and we can deliberate.
It sounds like the no grading criteria can be removed, the condition.
Well, why? I mean,
Well, he said it's not going to happen. It's weeds. He's going to weed whack them.
okay. I don't see how it hurts anything to just have that as a finding or as a condition. But
Okay, right now.
now how about, would you like to add a condition about having some kind of trash?
Does that sound like a motion?
I'm asking you. Yeah, I can do that. Okay. Yeah. Would you like me to make that? I move that we approve major temporary use permit 302, 101 Higginbotham Road. With the staff recommendations, 1, no grading shall be completed on site prior to the approval of a grading permit. No major temporary use permit will, temporary major use permit will expire 1 year from the date of approval. And no overnight parking shall be permitted. And now finally, there will be some consideration for trash so that we don't have trash all over.
I'll second that.
Okay, any more discussion? And let's vote. If you're in favor, raise your hand. That passes unanimously. Okay, we'll move on. Next item of new business is major temporary use permit at 2304 at 302 Manitou Avenue. Temporary rental and storage of electric bikes.
Thank you. So at 302 Manitou Avenue, the applicant, Gregory Cobble, is applying for a major temporary use permit to allow for the temporary storage and rental of e-bikes. The property is zoned commercial, and this request is specific to the small accessory structure, the shed that is in the parking lot to the west of the 2 main structures on the site. The applicant indicated that the temporary use is a way to assess the financial viability of pursuing a permanent rental location at this property. I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on with our projector. If it's really bothering anyone, I can probably turn it off, but I don't know how else to fix it. So the applicant is aware that a major development plan would be required if a permanent rental location is sought at this location. The proposed hours of operation are 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Wednesday, and 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Thursday through Sunday. Again, here is a site map indicating the property in question, and the small shed-like building is outlined in a light yellow. The applicant also proposes to have a pop-up canopy on the site as part of the rental structure to provide shade for the e-bikes and also for the customers. They further indicated that there are no restrooms available for this building, and guests or customers would be instructed to use the restroom facilities at Shriver Park nearby. For findings and review criteria, the proposed use will generally not be detrimental to public health and general welfare. The proposed use is compatible with the purpose and intent of the LUDC, and is an appropriate use within the commercial zone district as it is a tourist. Number two, if located outside of the downtown zone district, adequate off-street parking meeting the standards in the code is provided. The applicant states that the business projects an average of approximately 3 customer vehicles per day to the site. It's unclear how many standard and ADA parking spaces are on the site. They're not currently lined. It's hard to tell from aerial views. The applicant indicated that there are 10 spaces available to them. So while not required for a major temporary use permit, if the applicant pursues a permanent presence on the site, a parking and circulation plan would be required as part of the major development plan. Once again, staff has a couple recommendations for conditions. Number 1, the major temporary use permit will expire 1 year from the date of approval. And number 2, the canopy must be taken down at the end of each business day. And this concludes my presentation.
Any questions? Thank you. Hey, would the applicant like to step to the table and state your name and address for the record, please?
Gregory Cobble, 1207 Manitou Avenue.
You have the floor. Just, say what you want.
Oh, okay, sorry. No, Chelsea did a good job.
Could you speak right into the mic? Otherwise, we don't pick it up. and
No, I
people watching can.
gotcha. Sorry. First time here. No, I think she explained it very well. The location's perfect for our rental. We rent electric bikes throughout the season. And what we do is we train them on the bikes and then we escort them over to the Garden of the Gods. So that location is very fitting. We would walk through the parking lot and then through Shriver Park, the little trail over to the path. And then it's a very short trip to the garden. And then we drop them off and then let them ride for 2 hours or whatever they book the rental for. This location, I've been trying to do business there since 2020. I think we can all probably have seen the history of that little building. Started as a barbecue place, and then it actually did well. And then the guy went closed for whatever reason. But in talking with the owner there, it's very hard for him to rent that building because it doesn't have water, doesn't have sewer. So any kind of restaurant or anything like that is going to be an uphill battle for him to rent. And he and I got together and we feel it's just a really nice fit because we don't need water. The building for us will be storing bikes. It'll be you guys have probably seen the billboard or sign that I put on the side of the building. So the awareness as people drive in town will see it. Our plan is to have bikes parked outside, make it a very visible place for people to see as they come in town. I would ask about the canopy. It's a pretty large canopy. It's a pretty solid structure. It's not easy to take down, put up or take down. So what I would ask for, permission last year we had that at Hiawatha Garden parking lot. That was our rental location. And we left it up all year. So I would ask for permission to leave that up if at all possible. It's advertising. It's not unattractive. In fact, everything we do there, I think in the little building, it was empty for a little while. Now it's, painted. It's got the signage on it. Our goal is to make that spot very attractive. And we hope to draw in people and show them a good experience on e-bikes. I don't know what I'm leaving out here. Any questions thus far with what I've said?
Anybody have any questions?
I'm just worried about the canopy as far as like wind and it blowing away because it's not a permitted structure.
We have it solidly anchored with 5-gallon buckets and sand and cement even. And it withstood the entire season last year. And we had some pretty ugly wind. And if we see a forecast of something very severe, we'll certainly take it down. But in terms of an eyesore or anything like that, it's certainly not. We'll make the space look good. We'll improve the space. And if we're able to see success there this season, we'll follow up and do the things that we need to do to be there long term. But yeah, the tent is a really solid tent or canopy, very solid. We had one before, the year before, and it wound up in the creek, in Fountain Creek. So we upgraded.
Currently, there's something going on at Hiawatha. Is that your
That's
organization?
mine, yeah.
Okay, so you would be moving or doing both?
No, we'd be moving.
Okay. And that one seems to be pretty stable.
Pardon me?
It's pretty stable. I haven't seen it blowing around.
No, it's very stable. Yeah, very stable. And if we find it's not stable enough, we'll upgrade to something better. But like I said, it withstood all of last season in terms of the wind and whatnot.
Great. Any more questions for the applicant? Just
So we've heard from the planning department that I guess some of the parking stalls aren't marked. Would you be willing to mark those?
Oh, sure. They're lightly marked. That's how I counted the 10. And in fact, there's more than 10, but there's 6 that are right parallel with Manitou Avenue. But that space we want to leave open for cars to, to drive through and find a place to park. But yeah, we'd love to mark. I mean, we would mark those for sure. Yeah.
if there are no more questions for the applicant, you can turn the green button off there, and if we need more from you, we'll bring you back. Okay, the public comment portion of this hearing is open. If anybody in the audience would like to comment, now is the time.
Kathy Nims, 9 Sandra Lane. I have a question. Isn't there a designation of width for e-bikes to be on the trail? The trail right by the skateboard park is quite narrow. And I know that you're expanding part of the creek walk, but I don't think it's designated for e-bikes. Is that true? There's an e-bike, you have to have a certain width for electric bikes?
My recollection when we, we started some e-bikes, experimental things with the, that rental thing by, Lulu's, there was no specific designation. It was just assumed that they would be allowed on the creek walk path. But I think that's more of a legislative thing that we wouldn't, be more of a city council type thing if there's some concern on that.
I thought there was even statewide regulation on what is required for e-bikes.
Staff, Austin, anybody, do you have anything to add?
I'm not aware of any statewide law around the designations for where you can take e-bikes. I could look into it further, but I haven't heard of anything along those lines. And I'm not aware of any other clients I represent that have encountered that issue.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else in the audience like to comment on this? And then we will close the public comment portion of this.
Chelsea, just curious why the condition for the removal of the canopy?
Mostly due to how other temporary structures are viewed throughout town. For instance, I know there have been comments regarding temporary shade structures that were allowed during the COVID kind of allowance, that it was expressed that those not be allowed on a permanent basis. So it's really, I guess, whether or not 1 year is considered on a permanent basis. I had concerns about wind as well, so that's really why I suggested those conditions, but at the end of the day, they are just suggestions.
Thank you.
Well, it looked like you were about ready to make a motion.
I can. Well, I would like to strike that condition if everyone agrees. Then I'd like to approve the major temporary use permit at 302 Manitou Avenue based on the findings that requests meet the review criteria for granting a major temporary use permit as set forth in City Code Section 18.06.48 with an alteration to staff condition as follows, eliminating condition number 2, the canopy just eliminated, but it says the canopy must be taken down at the end of each business day.
I'll second.
Is there any more discussion? Let's vote. The measure passes unanimously. Before we go on, is there any kind of troubleshooting we can do? This is sort of everybody, there are a lot of people obviously for this item, and it's giving me a headache just looking at it. If we could pause, I don't know if there's something we can reboot or.
Yes, I was going to request a 5-minute recess so that we could reboot it. It's streaming just fine, so we know it's just the projector.
Okay,
So we'll
Great.
we'll
Okay, so
turn it off.
we'll adjourn for 5 minutes. But don't go far because we'll come right back. Okay, going to call the meeting back to order. The next item on the agenda is major final plat 2301, Shine Village filing 2, number 2, 183 Crystal Park Road, Manitou Cabins LLC owner.
Great, thank you, Chair Delwich. Let me just get the PowerPoint pulled up and we will get going. Okay, so we are reviewing the major final plat for the Manitou Cabins. This particular property's address is 183 Crystal Park Road. The City Planning Commission heard the major development plan in fall of last year. And so this is the second phase of that, of the entitlement process. Like I mentioned, the major development plan was reviewed and approved by the City Council in October of 2022. That gave permission for them to begin work on the cabins in the site west of Sutherland Creek. They did receive approval to demolish 3 structures on that property as part of that same hearing. And work on the cabins in the site has begun. I don't know if anybody's driven by, but you've probably seen a little bit of construction out there. The overall site is about 9 acres in size. It's zoned low-density residential. We are reviewing the major final plat. This is to establish lots for each of the historic cabins, to subdivide the east side of the property into 8 single-family lots. This plat also dedicates an 11,686 square foot pocket park. That land dedication was confirmed by Parib on June 5th. Or June 6th, whichever was that Monday. And this plat also creates a drainage easement along Sutherland Creek. With this major final plat was a Tier 3 geologic hazard report, which I'll dive into a little further into this presentation. So I just wanted to refresh everybody's memory. This was the site plan that was included in the major development plan. And this is reflective of the major final plat. There are a few changes here. One being, if you guys can, you can see my cursor. It's very small, but the extension of Mountain View Road at the end, it was changed from a cul-de-sac to a hammerhead. The fire department has confirmed that they can utilize this hammerhead for a turnaround. This road was also converted from a public road to a private road that would be maintained by a homeowners association. This allowed them to shrink the width from a proposed cross-section that would meet public standards to one that is skinnier. And ultimately that allowed all the structures proposed on these lots to be pushed towards the road and off of the hillside. Another change is the parking lot closer to the north side of the property. As part of the City Council meeting, they recommended to have no parking spaces that would back into Crystal Park Road. And so this very small parking lot would allow people to park for those cabins that face Crystal Park, but also be able to exit onto Crystal Park facing forward. Additionally, a sidewalk is shown for the entire length of the project. This was another condition from City Council. Another change from the previous site plan to this one is a removal of 1 lot. So on the old site plan, we were looking at 9 lots. That was to the east of the creek, and now we are looking at 8. This is a quick look at the actual final plat. It's less decorative than the site plan, so I like to show both. But this is representative of what the technical document shows. There was a question from one of the commissioners who asked about lot sizes. Specifically, the existing cabins and cottages are a legal non-conforming land use. The platting of the building's footprint is not expressly permitted or prohibitive in the applicable codes. It's staff's opinion that the request is compliant with the intent of the zoning code, specifically because the number of structures that is being platted on the cabin side, if they were to be on lots that meet the minimum, they would be oversized. So if we were to take all the land area that is for common use that's being platted as part of a common use tract, and those were to be platted as individual lots, it would meet the minimum lot size and lot frontage. And so we're essentially treating that portion of the project as a condo plat in some way. This is allowed through one of our subdivision sections. Specifically, it says in the section 1805 2.1.a, shape and orientation. The shape and the orientation of lots should be appropriate for the location of the subdivision and for the type of development proposed. The governing factor should be the usability of the lot. With this interpretation and that code section, we're able to do the common sense thing, which is instead of an irregular lot pattern to accommodate those historic structures, we'll just be platting their footprint, so to speak, with a common use tract in between. Moving on to the geologic hazard report. So one of the conditions that was approved by the city council is that a tier 3 geologic hazard report be submitted with this major final plat. That did occur, and that report was reviewed by Colorado Geological Survey. The geohazard report concluded that the development of the 8 lots is feasible, but that site-specific geologic hazard reports with specific recommendations for foundation design would be necessary. And that did become a note on the final plat that would be recorded with the rest of the plat. Overall, CGS is in agreement with the conclusions of the geologic hazard report. There are a couple of items that should still be addressed with the geohazard report. However, they would not affect the final plat's overall layout and the technicalities of platting lots. We held a neighborhood meeting for the final plat on May 4th of this year. Approximately 30 individuals were in attendance, and we did do public notice for both the Planning Commission meeting today and for the neighborhood meeting. The review criteria for final plats is very cut and dry, and that's because final plats are generally reviewed by staff. So they are generally administrative. However, this particular project spanned the old development code and the current development code. Under the old code, final plats were required to be reviewed by city council. And so the development plan proceeded in a way understanding that the final plat would be reviewed by the Planning Commission and City Council at a later date. So we made a condition just to assure that that process continued, just because this particular project spanned the 2 different codes. Oh, I should mention, so the review criteria, the final plat complies with the requirements of the LUDC, and that the final plat comply with the applicable technical standards and specifications outlined in the LUDC. It's staff's determination that the final plat does do that with the conditions as outlined. So staff is recommending approval of the major final plat with the following conditions. One being to identify the flood zone that is shown on the final plat as the drainage easement, to update the note to include lots 10 and 11. That the Lewis subdivision, which was renamed to Lot 2, be renamed to a different lot number in Note 12 to identify the tract as Tract A, and to edit the geologic hazard report according to Colorado Geological Survey's review letter. But again, those items in the geologic hazard report would not affect the overall platting of the property, just how those individual lots foundations are designed. And that concludes my presentation today.
Questions for staff?
Hannah, can you repeat what your last sentence basically about the footprint and so forth?
Regarding the lot sizes?
Yes.
So let me pull up the plat. So this portion of the project, this is where the historic cabins are. And so to plat those on lots that met the minimum of 8,700 square feet, you would have a really weird lotting pattern. And so in order to not have such a strange lot pattern that probably would need lot frontage variances anyway. This moved forward as what looks like a condo plat essentially. And so only the footprint of the actual structure is platted on a lot, and the surrounding area is platted as a tract that allows for access, maintenance, and any other shared use that is maintained by the homeowners association.
Okay, maybe I misheard you, but I thought at the very end of your presentation, you said something slightly different, but that's fine. Now, if somebody puts an addition onto a building, or if there's a new build, it'll automatically fall underneath that criteria?
On the historic cabin site, if there were to be a new addition, it would have to be within the lots, the boundaries of the lot.
Right.
Otherwise, a full replat would be required. That would require every property owner's sign off. So the intent is that the historic portion of the site remain that way.
How is lot 8 accessed?
Lot 8, so this it's actually better shown on the site plan. So we have the extension of Mountain View Road that has a hammerhead, and that leads, there will be an easement that leads to lot 8. So it would cross lot 9 and move to lot 8. So it would
Okay,
be
it's just
accessed
not
off
shown.
of Mountain View.
Okay, just not shown on the.
Just for clarification, on the eastern side, each of the lots, there are buildable areas that would not require variances or subdivision waivers. Is that correct?
That's correct. Although we would be, there would be some smaller structures, but that would be buyer beware essentially. So each lot does have a buildable space. That just may not be a McMansion sized home.
I'm sure this is going to come up in the conversation, but John Maynard suggested having the park be part of the HOA versus city property. You have any thoughts on that?
All I do is implement the code, and the code requires land dedication for projects of this size. And so in working through PARAB, they found the 11,000 square foot tract to be acceptable. So if there was particular feelings about whether that was above and beyond or not enough, then that would have to be a conversation with city council.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, the applicant like to come to the table and state your name and address for the record.
Hello, everybody. Taylor Stamp, owner applicants, 1431 West Kuchara Street, Colorado Springs, Colorado. Thanks for hearing us tonight. Hopefully everything looks as it should, since we've been through this for quite a long time. Anna did a great job overviewing pretty much everything that has taken place since the last time you saw us. Hopefully this adheres to everything that you guys are. It definitely is a unique site that we're trying to work with 100-plus-year-old cabins and kind of create some opportunity for some new homes. So yeah, I think that's it for right now that I have.
Dale Stamp, 787 Overlook Ridge Point, Colorado Springs. Owner. Little background on this project. As most of you know, it's been over 3 years. I think we bought this beautiful piece of property that we've been working on to get the entitlements to proceed with with doing a quality project that Manitou Springs and the neighbors would appreciate. As Hannah indicated, our contractor has done a considerable amount of work, protect the cabins. We put on all new roofs except for a couple of the not really cabins anymore, older 70s buildings plus the lodge, which we're undetermined what we're going to do with that, whether it be retail or residential housing. Through this whole process, we had financing for the construction loan and the property with Stockman's Bank. They do not believe we are going to get a permit or a final approved plat, and they have ceased to pay our draws anymore. The contractor has stopped working on the project because he's not getting paid anymore. We're at a wit's end on this project. We've done everything what possible to do through Hannah, and we really appreciate her stepping up and getting us as much information as possible, what we need to do. We met all the deadlines if possible through the requests several times. There was requests that were not achievable last second. We had deadlines that different entities were supposed to meet, and their deadlines were not met, but ours were. And it threw us for a loop. And we felt like this process, we have become a guinea pig for Manitou Springs on their new codes and changes that have taken place through this whole process of 3 years. And as you know, we've gone through 5 planners and several consultants. We're good people. We're honest. We're ethical. We've worked hard. And this has cost us thousands and thousands of dollars. To be honest with you, if we don't get this on track, I'm shutting the project down. I've had it. My partner from Manitou Springs has bailed out on this project. He doesn't believe this project's going to go forward. Him and his wife had near nervous breakdowns. So I'm right now the sole owner with my son. And, you know, you can hear it in my voice. I've had it. And we've made threats with Hannah about why are we proceeding with this project since we've thought we've done such great things on the project. And then just to hear just recently, John Maynard wants to have the HOA pay for the park, include that in the park. It's just, this is the absurdity things that we hear constantly for the last 3 years. It just, you know, it's just like, where is common sense gone with government agencies and things like that when we're trying to do something really good for this city? You can do what you want to do. We thought we have done what we needed to do. If you've indicated, we got all those cabins primed and painted, and they look a heck of a lot better if you've driven by those places. That's all I've got to say. I mean, the ball's in your guys' court, but I'm drained. And Mark, who's been our engineer and working on this project for 3+ years, and you can also comment, I mean, they've put thousands of hours on this and all the changes that have been requested by the city. We've done it. And right now we're at the final stages with our LOMAR that's going to decrease the floodplain considerably. And we're waiting that approval from the FEMA at any day now, which is going to be great for the area. The park's going to be great for the area. That will be held up. I don't know, you guys questions for me? I'm more than happy to answer, but that's all I've got to say now.
Any questions, Mike?
I'm just curious how you guys felt the neighborhood meeting went.
Actually, very well. One of the better meetings we've had since the beginning of it. Sounds like we satisfied most of the concerns of the neighborhood, which actually came from part of the Manitou code change. So we had some issues that came up from the change that made some setbacks, but I think the result of that actually ended up for the better for the project.
If there are no more questions, well, we can call you back if we have one.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're at the public comment portion of this hearing. If anybody would like to comment, just step to the table and get the mic real close and state your name and address. And try to keep your comments to 3 minutes, but now it's public comment.
Hi, I'm Dave McDonald at 1385 Indian Oaks Place. And sure, I just had more of a question probably. I was hoping to see a no build line actually on the topo part of the plat, and I didn't see one. There was a topo type of plat distributed at the last meeting that didn't have a no build line. I emailed Hannah about that a while back, and I was wondering, would that be something that should be placed on there? What my concern is, when people build these lots, we talked before about we don't want to get in any confrontation with new neighbors. It would be good if everybody knew just sort of what the deal was with the lots when they bought them. Other than that, I personally hope the project goes through, and I hope the Stamps can get their project going.
Okay, Hannah.
Thank you, Chair Delwich. A no build line was added to the plat, and it's a very thin line, but you can see it on this newest version. And you can see, I wish I could kind of zoom in a little bit more for you, but that's the line that delineates where 30% slopes begin. And that's 30% and above is considered not buildable. So this line delineates where those 30% slopes begin.
Okay,
So
thanks,
it was
Hannah.
added.
Yeah, that's all I had. Thanks, guys.
Kathy Nims, 9 Sandra Lane. I just have more of a question about the parallel parking. Is that still going on by the sidewalk?
Do you want me? So parallel parking as in on Crystal Park Road or in
Yeah,
the
on Crystal Park Road, yes.
So that is a city project that is being worked through separately from this final plat. So it is not shown within this project scope because it's public right of way. And so we're working on it as a separate city project.
And are you okay, so the park, then the parking for the park is a part of the city project?
I can't say definitively because we haven't gotten to a design phase yet.
Okay.
But the idea is that there would be parking adjacent to the park, but I just can't guarantee that because we haven't gotten to a construction drawing phase.
Okay, thank you. It's looking good to me too, so I know it has been hard work.
Laura Steinbach, 1 Loretta Lane. I just want to say how happy I am driving up Crystal Park as I go home. It looks beautiful. They're doing an incredible job, and I was sorry to hear that there's been further issues, but I would ask that we do everything we can to support the project to come to the fruition. It's been a long time coming. And that's it.
Yeah, I'm Steve Snyder. And Stephen Snyder. I'm at 155 Clarksley Road, Manitou Springs. And this is the concern that I have is not so much with the way the project is moving, but I am a principal investigator permitted for the state of Colorado for cultural resources management. And and before the project even started, I encountered some artifacts that were on actually the project, and that is the curve there at the where the water meter is, and it appears that two of the artifacts were collected and taken to the to the Heritage Center, and other artifacts have been identified, left, and sort of disappeared. So for the record, I would like to provide the GPS coordinates for the area where these artifacts are coming out of the surface, and any road widening, that there will be some and Hannah, I guess you would know better than I what we need to do to identify this as cultural sensitive area, and any projects should have some sort of oversight. So any questions? But like I said, right now it does not impact any anything that is being done at this moment, unless they start digging and well, and other artifacts, and there are other artifacts that have been encountered in the property, and of course, you know, you got the stream, and you have the water, you have the deer. People have been there for, you know. I found one artifact that we dated it. It was just further up the road to about 4,000 years ago. A projectile point.
Have you spoken to the owner about this situation?
No, I have not, and I can remember. I'm older than I look, so. But I have had, if you will, some run-ins, if you will, with because and I actually have a son that was a tenant there. And so I've got about 20 years of the history, and actually the prehistory of the area. And but I have, and it's really bothers me because we put a big no trespassing, it says, then it and I know that people, the staff there, it was signed and bills for and said that they have found artifacts, and they collected them, but I've tried to go onto the property, but it was, all fenced off, but even, before then, to get an idea. And And so now I'm walking by and I'm looking at the mounds of dirt that are and so I'm by now, I guess if there was anything else down there. But the answer is no, but I've had actually run-ins with the people that are doing the work. And I don't want to go this far, but I'm retired civil servant, supervisory environmental protection specialist. So I've had 20, 30 years of environmental
Okay.
compliance.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
Thank you. We've
Yeah.
noted.
Okay.
Good evening, John Maynard, 1320 Indian Oaks Place. I'm here basically to clarify the statement that I made in a response to the submittal. As most of you know, the city has a procedure, C-Click Fix. I use that almost exclusively to make comments about the lack of maintenance in park space. And my comment basically was, why would the city accept this parkland in this location when the original plan had 2 affordable units shown in that location? Why would we take on some property that we can't afford to either plan or develop or maintain? And when a higher priority in my estimation would be 2 affordable units. So that's the clarity of my statement. I'm not suggesting that there be a park maintained by the homeowners association. The homeowners association could retain a signage tract on the corner that identified the historic district. That would be appropriate for the homeowners association. But I would prefer to see 2 homes there than a park that will never get built or maintained adequately.
Thank you.
Sue McDonald at 1385 Indian Oaks Place. Just for clarification, I was wondering how tall the houses could be.
The maximum building height in this zone district is 25 feet. Of course, the architecture of the new structures would have to go through Historic Preservation Commission for overall approval. And that may mean a lower building height, but the maximum in the district is 25.
Okay, thank you.
Name is Matt Ferguson, 1370 Indian Oaks Place. So just real quick, I don't want to drag this out. I just want to say that as the plan exists now, I am in favor of it. I think that the code changes and the feedback from the public and the neighborhood and our neighbors in the community have really made this project better. As for the stamps, I appreciate their investment in our community. And I appreciate all of our neighbors for their input and their time and coming down here. Some people just aren't really great coming down and speaking in front of people. And also wanted to say to the stamps that much of the adversarial tone that's existed throughout this project has been largely due to the individual that they had representing them. And had things gone as they did during this last community meeting where Taylor kind of just sat down and talked to us, I think that the whole thing would have gone much smoother. But again, just to reiterate, as this plan exists now, I'm in favor of.
Thank you. Okay, there's no one else wants to comment. I'll close the public portion of this hearing. Now, I have a clarification, Hannah. What we do is a recommendation, or are we doing the approval here?
Because we have to, or we're following the previous plating procedure, this is a recommendation to city council. And we have this item, depending on how it went tonight, scheduled for the June 20th city council meeting.
Any more thoughts?
I just like to make a overall comment. I noticed people taking photos of the presentation and so forth. Everything that we have access to is on the city's website. So all this information is there at any time. It's a great website. So if you have any questions about the details, it's out there for the world to see.
If there are no more comments, so I'm ready to make a motion, but I don't want to step on anybody. Okay. Okay, I would like to recommend, make a move that we recommend the major final plat at 183 Crystal Park Road based upon findings that it meets the review criteria for granting a major final plat. We recommend that we I'm trying to read this. It's not natural to me. I move that we recommend it to council to approve the major final plat at 183 Crystal Park Road with the findings as stated by staff. That this major final plat meets the criteria of City Code Section 1806-415H.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Okay, then let's vote. Oh. Okay, so that's unanimous, 5-0. And I guess the next step is a city council meeting on the 20th. Thanks for everybody coming and participating. So is there other business? We're still in the meeting, Steve. Steve, we're in the meeting. Could you wait till we finish our meeting? Any other business?
So no other, sorry, I'm trying to recall what's occurred at the city council. There's no other business. I'm trying to recall if there's been any city council items or discussions of note, and nothing's coming to my immediate or forefront of my mind. So if I think of something, I'll send an email to the planning commission.
Anybody on the commission have any other business? Okay. With that,
Sorry, I'm not on the commission, but I do have one item just to alert you all that I did have a recent name change from Chelsea Stromberg to Chelsea Royston. So if you see, thank you. If you see any emails or staff reports from Chelsea Royston, same person, same planner, new name.
oh, so I can take it out of my spam folder now.
Exactly. Thank you.
Okay, with that, let's adjourn the meeting.